Sometimes people misunderstand the purpose of a family interview and often miss the mark. It is not just facts, it's presence. I'm Thomas Fujii, and this is about helping families preserve the voices, stories, and presence of the people they love before those moments are gone. When most people decide to record a parent, grandparent, or loved one, they focus on the mechanics first. What should I ask? What order should I ask it in? How do I keep the conversation moving? How do I avoid awkward silence? And yes, those things matter, but the interviews families return to years later are usually where the person being interviewed felt safe enough, seen enough, and heard enough to truly open up. Because you are not just collecting facts, you are not just gathering names, dates, and old family stories. You're preserving a person. The way they laugh, the way they pause, the way their voice changes when a memory still means something, the way they remember, the way they feel, that is what future generations connect to. Not just what someone said, but how they said it. And here is the part most people miss. You do not preserve that with better gear. You preserve it with better listening. That kind of presence doesn't appear when someone feels rushed. It doesn't show up when you are distracted. It doesn't show up when you are mentally racing to the next question. And it definitely doesn't show up when the interview starts feeling like a performance. It shows up when someone feels that you are genuinely with them, really with them. And in the meaningful interview, there are two kinds of presence happening at the same time. There is the presence of the narrator, the person whose life and voice you're trying to preserve, and there is the presence of the interviewer, the attention, patience, and care you bring into the room. One is what you hope to keep, the other is what makes it possible. So here are 3 simple ways to be more present in your next family interview. First, follow the feeling. A question list is a guide. It is not the boss. If your narrator says something with emotion behind it, stay there. Maybe they say, I was terrified, or that was the first time I felt alone. Or even maybe, I still remember that kitchen. That is not a side note. That is the doorway. Instead of moving on, slow down and ask, tell me more about that. What did that feel like? What do you remember most clearly? Because the real story often lives just beneath the first answer. Not in the headline of the memory, in the feeling underneath it. Second, let silence work. This is where many people struggle. Silence feels awkward, especially when you are nervous or when a camera is rolling. But in a family interview, silence is often where the deeper memory arrives. Someone answers, they stop, there's a pause, and your instinct is to jump in and save the moment. Don't. Let the pause, breathe, stay calm, stay relaxed, stay with them. Because very often, a few seconds later, they'll say, actually, or, I've never really told anyone this part. That is not dead air. That is trust forming in real time. Third, reflect what matters. One of the simplest ways to help someone feel heard is to gently reflect back a word, a phrase, or a feeling they just shared. Not mechanically, humanly. They say, we had left before sunrise. You say, before sunrise? They say, I didn't realize how scared my mother was until years later. You say, you understood her fear later on? That small reflection says something powerful. I'm here. I heard that. That mattered. Keep going. And if you'd like a thoughtful place to begin, I created a free guide called Telling Our Tales. It walks you through how to prepare for an oral history interview, from creating a comfortable space to asking meaningful, open-ended questions that invite real stories. You can download it in the description below. And once people feel heard, something changes. They stop performing their story and they start inhabiting it. That is when the interview becomes more than informative. That is when it becomes alive. And that is what oral history does at its best. Because one day the people who come after you may not just want the facts, they may want the sound of that person thinking, the rhythm of their voice, the smile before a difficult memory, the pause before they found the right word. That is presence. And that is what makes this work so meaningful. So here's my question for you. When you think about someone you love, what is one small thing about their presence you would want future generations to remember? Maybe it's their laugh. Maybe it's the way they told stories. Maybe it's the way they paused before something important was said. Share that in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Questions gather information. Presence preserves people. But what exactly is oral history and why does it matter so much? In the next video, I explain what oral history truly is and why it may be the most meaningful way to preserve a voice before it's gone. Tap the video on your screen.